Thank you, and through you, Chair. I appreciate the director's update. There were a few things that I would appreciate hearing more information on. I understand that she said a shift to focus back on masking would interrupt the education that is currently taking place. And I'm just wondering if she could expand on that, but also talk a bit about how the current situation, the health of our students, how that has been affected over the past couple of weeks, and how we have been seeing a number of absences, because I do know I've heard the director say many times that in-person school is where we want kids to be and learning as much as possible. And so with all of the absences and sickness that has been going through our community, and I guess also the fear that some of the educators have about going into classrooms when we talk about mental health and their well-being. I'm just wondering, in your remarks, Director, if you could talk a bit more about the health of our community, particularly the most vulnerable in our community, and what you're seeing right now, and potentially as well talking about the mental health of teachers, educators, and students wanting to learn in a safe space. Thanks.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So I think in my remarks, I started by saying that we've been strongly encouraging masks. I have, by example, when I attend at schools, I wear my mask. The principals that and vice principals that I engage with are also masked, and many of them are wearing their N95s as well. And I would say the same for all of the senior team. When I go into schools, what I have seen is, by and large, the majority, the gross majority of students and staff are in fact continuing to wear masks. The last time I was in this school was last week. And when we talk about the fact that we have the reality of spread, the challenge that I would put on the table is that imposing a mandatory mask situation for students and staff in schools will do very little to actually reduce spread when those very students are in fact going out to a variety of different activities, and in the case of our secondary school students, work where they are engaging with people who are unmasked. One of the things I think we can all attest to is that we all know people at this point. There are very few of us who don't know someone who has contracted COVID. And in most of those circumstances, in fact, in all of the circumstances in my own personal circle, it has not been in a school. Although the people that are involved are all either educators or students. And in those cases, it has not been through school. And in fact, in some of those cases, it was when students were on holidays. So therefore, imposing a mandate for masking and the cost, the emotional and social cost of imposing and ensuring sorry, compliance. Please do not interrupt me. I'd like to finish my statement. You've asked me to say something.
A clarification on, I'm asking about the health specifically, not about masks. I'm asking about the health of students and staff, particularly the mental health and the physical health, and missing school as a result. That was my question, not about masks. Thank you, Director.
Can I ask the Associate Director if you have numbers on the students who are missing school? I don't know how to comment further on what has been asked.
We have the numbers from the dashboard, which would be related to, that we know to be related to COVID. Over the last couple of days, we've had one day we reached a high of 205 cases reported. As of April 12th, that was down to 113 that were still active. So those numbers we know to be self-reported COVID cases. Others would be largely speculative. So it is somewhat hard. I don't have the overall student absences by school handy, but we're hovering as a district around an aggregate of just under 15% total student absences heading into this week. And prior to the pandemic, that would have been fairly common for a secondary school, a little high for an elementary school.
Just the last part is on the mental health. Thank you.
What would you like to know, Trustee Bell, about the mental health of students?
Of students and staff, I've received a number of emails from teachers who have expressed their fear about going into classrooms with unmasked students. And I've also received a number of emails from parents who have expressed that their children are also afraid to go into what they believe is an unsafe setting because they've had, and additionally, they've had to pull out their children from school because they've heard through the grapevine that children are absent because COVID is present in their classrooms. And so that can have a real significant mental health impact. And so I'm wondering if you could speak to that within this motion, and if that would help to create knowing that people are in fact actually wearing their masks in the classrooms, if that would help with that mental health and that anxiety and that fear that has been expressed to me over the past couple of weeks.
Associate Director Brett Reynolds, would you like to comment on that?
I can comment on part of it for sure. You know, we have asked, are we seeing significant increases or changes in people requesting, say, OCV over in person? Those numbers remain very consistent over the last several months. So in terms of students pursuing a purely virtual option, we have not seen that. Polled a number of schools, perhaps a majority, representative of different schools. It was a sample polling, just something I did informally, so please don't ask me for a report on it. But it was through writing, and a small percentage of the schools indicated that they had seen a perception. You know, they could count students who have now opted for a period of time to learn remotely using the LMS, who were not, you know, home because they were sick or the class was closed. But most schools were reporting that, you know, attendance is remaining, in-person attendance is remaining quite consistent from before March break into. So to take what any one individual has shared with a trustee or a staff member around mental health and then, you know, take that out to the aggregate to large number, you know, I don't think that that's necessarily responsible. And I'm sure you've received these messages too, Trustee Bell, on the other side, where people are saying, please don't make my small child mask. It causes them a great deal of distress, or likewise. And the more common one I receive, and I'm also sure you get these, you know, it's just, please let us commit to a course. We're learning in school, we're home. Restrictions are on, restrictions are off, restrictions are back on. I think that kind of inability to have any sense of prediction of what's going to happen over the course of the school year, the rest of the course of the school year, has been also causing a fair bit of distress to staff and students. But certainly I cannot dispute that there are individuals who are reporting concern over being personally concerned that staff and students are not required to wear masks.
Thank you very much. And if there's an opportunity to talk a little bit later about the most vulnerable students that are in our community, I'm talking about those that have medical issues. And so if there is an opportunity later, maybe you can address that as well. And I'm hopeful that we can talk a bit about how masking would shift us away from focusing on education at some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bell.